Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the Chair of Finance for the Providence City Council. I'm calling to order a regular meeting on Tuesday, February 27th at 5:36. I apologize for the delay. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent. Councilor Underwood is absent. Councilwoman Reeves. Here. Councilor Sanchez.
Here.
3 present, 2 absent, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. And I'd also like to recognize Effie Shaw from the Solicitor's Office. Thank you for coming. We've got Councilor Shelley Peterson here joining us today. We've got Councilor Oscar Vargas, and we have our wonderful clerks, Lauren and Donna. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. If we could please read item number 1.
Item 1, an ordinance establishing a tax stabilization agreement for 180 GNC LLC.
Okay, now that we have this on the agenda, merely to schedule a public hearing for this, so I'd like a motion to schedule this for a public hearing.
I make the motion to schedule it for the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Gray, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So that will be scheduled. I believe these all will be scheduled for public hearing at the end of March. So we should have a date on that shortly. It will be on a Tuesday. Okay. Madam Clerk, item number 2.
Item 2, an ordinance amending the tax stabilization agreement between the City of Providence and 101 Richmond LLC.
Okay, and I believe we have Mr. Murphy to testify on this matter. Yeah.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
And please state your name for the record again.
Michael Murphy, Deputy City Assessor.
Thank you so much for joining us. So if you would be so kind as to just explain, there was a drafting error on this particular TSA, I believe. And I'm wondering if you can just give us a little background on this.
Sure. So the ordinance that was previously approved, and Petty correct me and then amended a lot of this. It was previously approved that the TSA was running from assessment years 2022, 2032. It should be 22 to 31. And the second change there was for the starting the base tax. Previous ordinance stated 2022, however, the base tax was started in 2023. It was followed that way by our office, regardless of the language that was in the ordinance that was implemented correctly. And I think the changes we have today are just people want to consider on us.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so although I didn't work on the original version of this, my best understanding is that well, A, that sounds right, that's all true. But B, that the ordinance as drafted, presented at public hearing and voted upon was the one that was then followed, but it was just in the final passage signage and uploading that is somewhere along there was like a computer glitch or something happened where something happened basically. So this is just fixing that. So it's consistent with what was discussed in the public hearing and what was intended to be passed by the city.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
So is there any other changes to like in terms of like the agreement or just technical?
So there's that technical change, and then I think I cleaned up a definition somewhere. Yeah. Oh yeah, so if you look at page 2, I cleaned up the effective date because if it was upon passage, because we're repassing a change, that it would be today and not, so I made that clear that it was for back then. And effective date was defined twice in here, and so I thought that was redundant, so I took out, there's on the way in page 9, I took out the second redefining of it.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Does that satisfy you, Councilor Sanchez?
Chairwoman.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? And I have a motion to approve this ordinance amending the tax stabilization agreement between the city and 101 Richmond LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Sanchez, seconded by Counselor Graves, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh, there was
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So
vote to undo it.
withdraw
Yeah,
that motion.
Yes,
to
would you be
approve.
so kind as to withdraw your motion, Counselor Sanchez?
I would like to withdraw that motion, Chairwoman.
Seconded, thank you. The motion to withdraw is by Counselor Sanchez, seconded by Counselor Graves. So I would like to, can you explain what this exhibit B is, the updated exhibit B, Mr. Murphy?
Yes. So when that original ordinance was reviewed and passed, it was based off a base assessment of $769,300. However, the applicant had appealed that valuation, and with the appeal process, we reduced it to $562,800. So the fiscal impact schedule will be based off of that year's assessment.
Okay, with this, I'm sorry, and this would have been done, how does this differ from what was attached to the original?
The original had, in 2023, they did the first line
Oh,
at $769,300.
Mm-hmm.
And upon review of the appeal submitted by the applicant, we reduced the assessment to $562,800. With the abnormally, physical deterioration of the building.
okay. And that was done subsequent to the original ordinance passing?
Yes, but before the tax bill was sent out.
Okay. Counselor.
I wasn't checking that out.
No, because I'm confused.
So, basically, this is just, again, kind of like another update. So the structure is the same from both, but the nominal value was changed because the appeal was considered successful. So instead of, so instead of reflecting the prior valuation, this is now updated to reveal the true valuation as within the assessor's book so that people can really see what is going on, basically.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, sorry, I'm not clear yet. There was a tax appeal, is that what you're saying?
That's my-
There was a
yes.
Successful tax appeal on this TSA, and this is the adjustment in the valuation of the building?
Correct.
And it went back,
I'm sorry?
and it went back.
Correct.
Okay, all right, well, I just, does anyone else have any questions?
She'll have a question.
Yes, so Sanchez.
Oh. I'm kind of confused how TSAs are eligible to be tax appealed, like, wow. Where,
They have that right under ground and the law, unless it's specifically stated within specific TFA.
Yeah, so the statute that authorizes the city to enter into tax stabilization ordinances basically it empowers the city council to provide rights to certain taxpayers. So the right to that taxpayer would be that their tax is stabilized at a particular rate. So you're stabilizing the rate. And so when the TSAs were previously drafted, it's that, okay, you still have all of your rights under the law, and under the law, you have the right to challenge the value placed upon the property. So let's say I have $100,000 piece of property, I get, I'm not gonna pretend to know the tax rates off the top of my head, I'll just figure that out. So let's say I'm saying it's taxed at 25% flat rate, so I'd be paying, what I said is 100,000, so it'd be $25,000. But though I ask for a TSA ordinance, the law to grant me the right to have it done at 20% of 100,000. So I would be owing 20,000, but I then challenge using my right to challenge the value to say, actually, my property is worth way less. I think it's only worth 50,000. And so under that, applying the same math, I would only owe 10,000 in taxes. So what the ordinance passes, just a right on a particular rate, not the value.
I will say that this has been a topic of discussion, especially with the Board of Tax Review. And it's also something I think that will result in a possible amendment of the TSA. So we will be able to deal with this at some point. But for now, we have what we have. So with that, any other questions?
Councilwoman, are you going to?
I'm sorry.
Just add this to the record.
Listen, all right, may I have a motion to, add, an updated exhibit B?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? Aye, all opposed. Okay, now. May I have a motion to approve the ordinance amending the tax stabilization agreement between Providence and 101 and 13 Cap?
You made that motion, so you.
So,
Do I have a second? Okay. Motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? All opposed. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Madam Clerk, please read on item number 3.
Item 3, resolution requesting to cancel or abate in part the tentative taxes assessed upon Hadelia Ricky, 272 Webster Avenue, in the amount of $18,526.40.
Okay, this matter Alden is here, Councilor Vargas. We've had a very good meeting with the staff, and I think we've resolved what we are able to do with the council. But I think there's going to be some proposed legislation coming at some point to address some of the concerns that came up during this. But at this point, I would like a motion to continue with this matter indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Graves. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, item number 4.
Item 4, communication from one of the mayor dated January 26, 2024, informing the honorable members of the city council that pursuant to section 302B and 1123 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in the Public Law, Chapter 45-50, Section 1 through 31, Act in 1987, CND's Day appointing Anna Baraka of 72 Anthony Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island, 02909, as a member of the Human Relations Commission for a term to expire on January 31st, 2027, and respectfully submits the same for your approval.
And before I ask Ms. Barraza to come up, I'd like to recognize that we have Councilor Reyes and Councilor Charter, Pro Tem Charter, joining us. So thank you.
To be here.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And please state your name for the record.
And Ms. Barraza, thank you so much for coming this evening. We appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you would like to be appointed to the Human Relations Commission. And I'm wondering if we can give us just a little of your background, which is quite extensive, but also you can tell us why it is you'd like to serve on this commission.
Sure. I've been a long-term resident of the city of Providence. Literally lived next door to the house that I grew up in, that my parents moved to 50 years ago. Very active in the community. I currently work at the University of Rhode Island. Have a 20-year history in higher education. And prior to that, working in social services and advocacy, which is my understanding, one of the main vision and mission of this particular committee is to make sure that we advocate for those that may not feel that they have a voice or representation. So that is something that I strongly do every single day in the work that I do.
Your background is amazing, so thank you so much for your willingness to serve. It's a very important commission. We actually heard testimony from quite a few members the last hearing, and all I can say is it's going to be a wonderful group of people working on something that's very, very important to the city. So thank you. I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments. Yes, Councilor Graves.
I have a comment. I do think that your resume is really good. I also believe that we really need to fill up this human relations commission. and bring it up to where they need to be, because apparently there are a lot of empty seats. So, I'm glad that you felt compelled to join them. I'll get into this, and I appreciate you for doing that. It's gonna take a lot. I think people forget how much goes into these type of positions, because it's not a 9 to 5. Any of those type of things. It's like you're always thinking, you're always working. You go to sleep at night sometimes, and you're still trying to figure out, what can I do for this, that, other. So, for every last one of you that have requested get on this board, I am with you 100%.
I endorse all those comments.
All right, yes, pro tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to welcome Ms. Barasa. Ana Barasa. I've known her for many years as growing up in the West End, but also had the pleasure of knowing the entire family and her commitment to public service. And like you said, and the resume speaks for itself, and we don't need to go through a lot because, or even question her, because she's been an international person and brings all the characteristics of not just only serving on the board, but perhaps underutilized on the board. But I'm sure she's going to bring a tremendous leadership and capacity and competency to this commission that will really help the overall team there. So I commend you for stepping up and serving the city of Providence, and I look forward to working with you too.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion
I make a motion
to approve?
I know what else.
Okay, the motion made by Councilor Gray, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We will be forwarding your recommendation to the city council, and thank you again for coming this evening and also for your willingness to serve.
Thank you, I'm looking forward to.
All right, take care. Okay. Item number 5.
Item 5, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city treasurer to borrow $5 million in anticipation of the city water revenue.
Okay, this evening I received a call from Philip Nina, who is also sitting with Ricky Cerullo, and apparently they are going to rethink this resolution. They would actually like us to withdraw completely. So I'm going to ask for a motion to continue this indefinitely. If the water department decides on the path they do want to take, or whether they want to proceed, they will reintroduce the resolution that council, and it would be referred to us. So
Motion to continue indefinitely.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now we have the now we have item number 6.
Item 6, resolution authorizing approval of the following option year contracts awarded by the Board of Contracts and Supply in accordance with section 21-26B1 of the Code of Ordinances. Waste Management of Rhode Island, Inc. $8,872,775.
Thank you. And we have presenting tonight, we have Chief Hawkins and Director Coyne-Fay. Will you be sworn in, please?
So raise your right hand, do you swear in the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your names for the record.
Courtney Hawkins, Chief Operating Officer. Patricia Coyne-Fay, Director DPW. Okay, thank you for coming. And I think we also have someone who's attending by, we need to swear him too. It's, I'm sorry, Ed, your last name?
My last name is Pasek.
Can you spell that?
P-A-C-E-K.
And may we swear you in?
Yes, you may.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your name again for the record.
Edward Pasek, that's spelled P-A-C-E-K.
And would you be so kind as to tell us what your position is with waste management?
Yes, I am the Director of Public Sector Solutions for New England.
Okay, we have everyone assembled. And I am gonna start by saying that, right before this meeting, we noticed that there is a technical correction. I will ask the solicitor again to give her opinion, but, Chief, if you could talk about what it is that is not correct in our package.
Sure. So before you tonight is the consideration of the final extension year on this contract, so the city does not have the ability to extend by this year. And the contract extension gave us pricing for last year and then for this coming year, which is what we're before you for approval today. The amount in the letter was tied to, well, it was also wrong, but I think it was meant to tie to the first year and didn't tie to the second year. So you have the correct pricing in the contract, but the letter should have read $9,542,385. So that's the amount we're asking for authorization and approval for tonight, so that we can exercise this final round.
So just to let you make sure that, when you are talking about the actual price, it is the price on page 2 of the document marked amendment 2.
That's correct.
Okay. And so the 9,542,385, which is supposed to be the monthly cost from July 24 to June 25, is that what we're looking at?
That's the annual permit.
Okay, I'm sorry, and then the June 23 to June 24 were already in, so this is the current year.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, does everyone understand, does anyone have any questions on that? And so I've consulted with the solicitor, and Effie, if you would be so kind as to give your normal opinion, whether we can hear this tonight because of the incorrect posting.
Right, so to the extent the number is incorrect, I think it still provides adequate notice to the public as to what is being discussed and refers to both the award was made by the Board of Contract and Supply, which was separately at another public meeting where people could find that material. The contract itself is posted, and there is a provision within the Open Meetings Act that allows for adjustments made to the agenda where you can still vote on them so long as it was properly noticed, which it was. So I would recommend that to clarify the agenda, to move to amend it to the correct number, and then vote on that agenda item as amended.
Okay. And we can do that at the end. We can amend it during our discussion. We'll do it at the end. Yeah.
Either way, I think.
We'll do it at the end. Please remind me. Okay. All right.
Well, it would just be the agenda item. They can, okay, yeah.
Okay. So with that said, now that we're all on the same page, please continue.
So the last time we talked about this, we had committed to conducting an RFI to get more of a market analysis of the potential bidders that are available. We did that. After doing that, we also met with people at Rhode Island Resource Recovery that are kind of familiar with statewide services provided in this area. We looked at analysis related to what other cities and towns are paying. And at this time determined that it is the best option for the city to execute this final year of this contract, to start an RFP process for a new hauler soon, which gives us the chance to potentially break it up to identify some specialized services perhaps. I know that there's an appetite where people would like us to break up routes across the city. We've been advised by a lot of folks that that is probably not going to get us a better quality of service. But when we think about bulk waste, when we think about white goods, when we think about e-waste, when we think about some of the other ancillary services that are provided, thinking about potentially procuring that differently than we're doing just the hauling. The RFP will also allow us to lay out contractual requirements in both penalties and incentives. One of the things that I've heard from lots of folks who are much more expert than I am is that, as I've tried to understand how we can reduce the amount of rejected recycling, is that most places that are being successful in doing that are offering incentives in the contract that provide benefit to the contractor and the city if we achieve that financial goal. So that would be an example of something that, like, with a new contract, we would have the opportunity to do all that. I think that will be a very long process. And so executing this extension will allow us to start that and work with the council to tee that up for the July 25 year to start. Trish and her team have done, we also talked about the last time we were here about, you know, developing a more assertive strategy to managing the contract, and Trish and her team have been doing that. They've been doing routine meetings with Waste Management. We've actually, and I don't want this all to sound like Waste Management is terrible. I'm sorry, I'm only highlighting negative things. In addition to working on positive things, you know, we have used the opportunities in the contract to fine the company when they haven't met service expectations, which the city was not doing. So, like, with all of these vendor relationships, it's really important that the city works hard at managing vendors, and Trish and her team have done that. And I think have set us up for future procurements that give us a contract that I think is more beneficial for everyone.
Okay. Do we want to open it up for questions? I have a few myself, but I'll go in. Yes, I'm sure.
Thank you, Chief, thank you, Director. Yeah, no, I'll be honest, I'm pretty disappointed in my colleagues and myself, and also the administration, that we had this conversation last year at this point, and now we're having it again. And I know you guys have been working with RFI, but in terms of myself and conversations I've had with colleagues, we have no idea what those results look like. And I mean, I'll take blame for myself for not following up on that as well. But if you could elaborate on what the RFI found, and if you could get us a copy to us all here in the near future.
Sure. So there was only one waste hauler that responded to the RFI for the purpose of waste hauling. We had responses for composting and other things. And we further validated that within Rhode Island, there is really one company that is big enough to handle the city the size of Providence right now. And that our pricing is better than basically any other urban city or town as it relates to how this contract has been established. So those are the factors that went into it. If we open up again, we're kind of starting from nothing. So we would be taking a risk that we could lock in pricing that was at this or below. And given that this was set from a baseline when costs for everything, you know, their business is very hard right now. When you think about all of the stories we hear about CDL drivers and supply chain and equipment and all that thing, the business is really hard. And that's what we heard from everyone. We went so far as to talk to vendors who aren't in this market about if they would want to come into this market. And so it is unlikely that we would end up with a contract that is going to be financially less than what we're paying now. And so I think the opportunity will be to enter into a contract that potentially has some incentives and penalties that are different, so we can deliver a better quality of service for residents. But that will also come with some hard decisions. I mean, we offer a bulk waste provision that is basically uncomparable in the state, and so we pay for it. And if we want to continue to do that, we're going to have to pay for it. And so that will be something we're going to need to work on together. As we determine, like, what are the core services that we want to provide.
Thank you. Follow-up question?
Yes.
So just to be clear, that RFI was for a very similar model of one company doing all of the work. Or was it, we didn't put an RFI out that reflected different turfs or other,
We did, we said you could tell us that you could do the whole thing, you could tell us you could do part of it, it tried to solicit ideas for ways to approach it differently.
so was that given to the counselors or was that communicated to anyone on our end?
I mean, it was released through the Board of Contract and Supply. It was shared with council staff at that time and released through the Board of Contract and Supply.
That was about like, what, 6 months ago
Oh,
or
it was like
more? Right, yeah, so that's on us as well. Next question.
Please.
How much have we fined, waste management this past year?
Thanks, Councilman. So I can get you the exact totals. I know that we implemented some fines related to yard waste, delays, and non-pickups. And then we also more recently instituted some fines related to the Christmas trees, the delay on the Christmas trees. So I can get you the exact amounts. I don't wanna spitball an answer and be wrong. So I'll make myself a note and I'll send you the amount.
It's not huge.
It's not huge. It's like, I think the first fine was maybe 1,000 or 2,000, and probably the second one I know is around that area.
But that's it's as like
Yes.
is laid out in that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, compared to what we've been doing in years past, it's something, right?
Yeah, I mean, we
So-
have regular meetings. I know Councilman Vargas came to one of our meetings recently to ask some questions on behalf of his constituents. I think we have a really good relationship with them, and are able to communicate. I know that, the head of our environmental unit, Al Giuliano, has practically daily communication, depending on what the issues are and the 311s he's dealing with, but, we did want to make it really clear, like, as Chief Hawkins said, she doesn't want to sit here and make it sound like they're jerks, but it's, we're exercising our rights under the contract in a way that I don't think has happened before, and they understand.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, and I do want to recognize and appreciate the work that Al does. I know he's always available to answer any questions that I have or any of my colleagues when it comes to the waste management contract. When does waste management need to be notified that we will be extending this contract? By when?
April 1st.
By April 1st? It's my last question for now. I know there was a lot of confusion, last week with the holiday schedule. I know a lot of it was on our end as a city. But is the holiday schedule built in this contract with waste management?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the confusion is because it's not a state holiday, and so Rhode Island Resource Recovery is open. So traditionally, I think we could certainly talk to them about changing that if as a group we decide it is worthy of doing. But that's the reason for that.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion, especially in February where we have FLK and then 2 weeks later it's President's Day, and it's completely different. So I know there's a lot of confusion in terms of schedule.
Yeah, it's been handled differently in the life of this contract, so I think there's an opportunity for us to talk to them about how we handle it going forward.
My last comment, just to put it out there, has really not a lot to do with this specific contract, but something to think about, because we always talk about the bulk service that our residents are entitled to as residents of the city. And while on paper, it's really a great idea and it's really amazing, like I try to promote it as much as possible. In practice, it's a big issue when our city is 65% renters that aren't very in tune with city services. So going forward in the next contract, that has to be a huge component of conversations. Obviously, the homeowners, property owners, how do they interact? But renters as well is also a big issue where folks just don't know. And there are a lot of folks that move in and out on a frequent basis, especially how crappy the housing crisis is. So that also needs to, I think, be at the forefront of any contract going forward.
Totally, and we've been talking about this. I mean, nobody wants to never miss a trash pickup more than me, I can tell you that. And as it relates to president's meeting, how we did communicate it, but like clearly lots of people didn't get it. It was the first time the city's ever reminded people that it was a regular trash week. But people are busy, they don't see it, so like tax bills isn't the answer because that's not getting rented. Like what is the way that we communicate with all residents, including our renters? Is something where like we could use a lot of ideas, and that will happen as it relates to this contract, but it's not. I'm not sure the vendor is gonna solve that for us. I think we together have to figure out how we do that, and would love to work with the council. We could put out a calendar once a year that has all the holidays. It's like, what's the best way to do that? Are we gonna like pay a community organization to go door to door and put magnets in people's mailbox? Like, I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you whatever it is, like, I'm here to do because it is hard for people and I empathize.
I'm just, one more, I just interrupt for 1 second, I'm sorry, your name again, the gentleman from Waste Management? Yeah.
My name is Edward, last name's Pasek, P-A-C-E-K.
Okay, Mr. Pasek, is there a policy, and for, I'm gonna ask, the chief, but do you have a policy in terms of the number of inches of snow that you will not operate?
We do not have a policy that specifically states the number of inches in which we'll operate or not, but we are supremely interested in the safety of our drivers and the residents. So we will make an evaluation along with the DPW to determine if it would be safe to operate in the city. So that's generally how we handle any kind of delay, and we are in contact with the city as we make that decision.
I appreciate that, because the other day that was very confusing, at least for the east side, was the snow day that we had.
The snow day and a holiday week.
And a holiday week. So I am gonna say, I realize that it wasn't all you. I appreciate the fact I didn't receive a lot of videos where you had workers going ahead of the trucks trying to dislodge. I think we had bins frozen on into the pavement. I mean, you your team went above and beyond, and I have to thank you for that, because that was really something that week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the DPW crew worked 20 hours a day to basically pick up an entire load of trash in the later days of the week, but that was and it was a terrible, thank you. It was not a great week.
Okay, yes, Councilor Graves.
Thank you for asking the majority of my questions. My question is, we're extending it for a year. This is the final year. And you're saying that you don't have anybody else that can do this type of job. I am very fearful of having a one company thing being able to do anything, because what is your initiative to continue doing a good job or a bad job if you're the monopoly?
Yeah.
So I think we need to figure out how we can judge, how we can get somebody else in, whether we have to go across the state lines to do so. Then there should be some type of competition.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, there's been a lot of complaints prior to before last year. I think last year they did a pretty good job. But garbage is not being picked up trash not getting picked up for weeks, not a week, but weeks. Because if it was a holiday or snowstorm or whatever, and if you have your day, it was on a Friday, people in Smith Hill and other areas assumed, because nobody ever came on a Saturday, that you didn't work on a Saturday. So they started putting their garbages in on that Friday at night after you haven't came, which means it goes to the next week, and God forbid if there's a snowstorm or a holiday, that takes you out 3 weeks. I know this because it's happened to me time and time again. People would, they would tearing up garbage containers and throwing, putting stuff in and not putting stuff in all the way, so garbage was on the ground. That has improved. I'll give you guys that, but we're still having issues with garbage is not being picked up for weeks. It just recently happened. And if, yes, it was because of the holidays and the snowstorms and the freezing cold and everything, but it seems to be the same route. It's the small little one-way streets, the little side streets that are being forgotten. They may be doing the rest of it, but if you're on a one-way street like I am, or you're on a little tiny street like Lydia, you know, they're forgotten numerous times.
Yeah.
And that was going on last year and it continues to go on this year. So I am a strong believer in us having an option if something goes wrong. We're talking a 1 year lease, which will be over, what, June of 25, 25? So we need to, yeah, we need to look into it. I'm not saying we're fine with it. I'm just saying that nobody should have a monopoly on anything. Because people get very complacent when they feel there's no other, but the only person on the block that can provide, a particular job. So, those are my comments.
Yeah, if I may, like,
Mhm.
the idea of incentives, like, is really important in contracts like this. Like, we focus a lot on beating up a vendor, but like, nothing motivates a vendor more than like they can earn more if they do better. We all operate that way, so I think that's something we'll look at. DPW has been so under-resourced over the past however many years that like they are our back, right? And so that's why I hope you're seeing things improve when things are missed. Because if people call 311, I can confidently say that DPW will take care of the problem. Like, I don't hesitate to say that. The systems that we're using between our great team at NCCF and the team at DPW are working. And so you should encourage people to call 311 if their trash gets mixed. They shouldn't have to wait a week. We will address it. And then the third thing is, I've now learned through a few snowstorms that there are also these streets that never get plowed. The more we know about where those places are that never get plowed, that never get their trash picked up, it's not a citywide issue. It's like this list of these few forgotten places. And so if you can surface those to us, then we can help to go the extra mile to make sure those places are addressed, and are happy to do that. And, you know, I was out driving around in the snow, making sure places got plowed. Once I know that a place is on the list, I will personally make sure it gets plowed. So we will continue to try to do that also.
Can I just ask about that and follow up? Because when we were contacting 311, it was through the app, or wasn't it, we were directed to call Waste Management
Yeah.
directly, and so that's,
Yes.
I'm telling you right now.
The customer service there is hard. That's right. But if you're not getting what you need from them, NCCS will take the information and work with Al directly.
NCSS.
Mayor's Office of Constituent Services. So that's like the city team that staffs 311. So if you're not getting what you need from Waste Management, you should let us know and we'll take care of it.
Well, see, that's a problem.
Yeah,
I was
that's
gonna
a whole-
say,
yeah,
because when you call Waste Management, and sometimes it takes a while to get through, but very polite, usually response. They will say, yes, we'll look into it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it. So how are you supposed to know whether they're gonna take care of it or we're supposed to call the city? So.
That customer service on the hotline will be something that will definitely need to be addressed.
Yes.
In whatever we do moving forward.
That's true. Thank you for putting that. That was my next thing.
Yeah.
Other counselors? Yes, go ahead, Council Lawyer.
Thank you. This might be a question for both the chief and director. Could you specify, you mentioned there was only one company that had submitted an application primarily for like hauling for through the RFI. Could you mention the name of that company? And my second question was, which is a little different, but if we move forward to renew this for another year and we maybe set up another RFI, could say if we go that route, could we also at the same time do some type of study on how much it would cost the city to bring this back under the jurisdiction of the city. So we walk away from privatizing this and, you know, make this another city service. I know there's pros and cons to that. I know there's the assumption that it would cost the city more. I'd like just to be convinced of that. If we could come up with some type of study or some data points on that. So that's my, so what, first thing is like the company's name that applied for it to be the primary hauler, and then just a second.
Yeah, the company that applied was Waste Management.
Was that?
It was this vendor, Waste Management.
Oh, okay, got it.
I am super interested in your question about moving it into the city. I would not be honest if I said I thought we could pull that off in a year. Right, and so I think it is a worthy question. I think as we move DPW to a more modern facility, we're gonna maintain the transfer station there, like, is something that we should explore, and I'd love to do that, but that is like a multi-year, we're gonna have to definitely procure another vendor before we can do that.
Yeah.
That said, we are looking at some like other types of city related service related to this, and I'll highlight that in this contract, if we extend one more time, we do get a $200,000 credit from Waste Management, which instead of taking the credit on the contract, Trish and her team are gonna work on using that money to work with counselors on issues of dumping in wards. Because that's something that I hear from you all that we're not doing enough about. I don't feel like we have a good idea. And so I'm interested in taking this money to kind of pilot over the next few months to see if what is the right answer to being more responsive to issues of dumping. That's like one example of like, maybe that's something we do internally, maybe it's something we contract, but let's use this extra money to figure that out. And maybe that's something we can roll out next year. And similarly, like mattresses, Al talks to me all the time about white goods. So some of these smaller services, we could more confidently bring in-house within a year's time, and that may be something we decide to do.
I'm sorry, now that we're talking about that, so I am looking at the option or the agreement to extend. So, it says that Waste Management would be prepared to institute a resident paid fee-based bulk collection with all proceeds returned to the city. Is that something we're doing?
No.
And why is it in the contract?
Because at the time that we negotiated this extension, we were hearing from a lot of people about wanting more bulk service, and so we had them put that in there in case we decided we wanted to do that. But that's not something we're prepared to do.
Okay, so bulk can be scheduled
Mhm.
and picked up for no cost.
Yeah. This was if we wanted to add more bulk.
No cost to the taxpayer.
No, at no cost to the taxpayer.
I think we're trying to.
Of course, I understand that. Is that, just to clarify that, so they're charging us, but not charging the taxpayer if they do bulk pickup?
It's part of our contract.
It's part of the contract, okay. Okay, all right, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, just, it's a, not, I guess, just feedback for our guest, Edward. If I might share, Edward, as we're thinking about extending Ward 4 with, I would hear from Ward 4 residents, when I go back to the next neighborhood meeting, and I don't share this feedback with you because they give it to me every time we meet about trash pickup. So I say this to say, you know, the sanitation workers deal with immense challenges on the road. You have cars parking in front of bins. Like it's really difficult to just be in this line of work. I just want to preface that. What the biggest complaint I hear over and over again, and you might not, you know, folks might not think it's a huge thing, but it plays into like the psyche of residents when they just get in their car or they walk by, they walk by it. But after, on the same day that the trash is picked up, the way the trash bins gets placed back on the sidewalk, it's a disaster. I mean, that happened, as I drove by today. And I know I believe it's one person per truck, so to speak. And I don't think they're required to get out of their truck, but just to put that out there, it is something when the average resident sees that and the bins are all over the sidewalk. Some of which is out of the control of waste management, I do recognize that. But it looks terrible, and it plays on the psyche of residents. And so I just want to put that out there, if somehow, if we could send that message to the workers, to the best of their ability, try to make sure that the bins are properly placed on the sidewalk, I think it would make a huge difference for homeowners.
Yes, I can definitely get that message, and I think it's a fair point to make. I think one point of clarification I just wanted to add is that as the bin is set back on the sidewalk, it's not always going to be maybe squared off nice and neatly, because it's not a person doing it, it's the machine that's putting it down. That being said, I think your point is well taken and understood, and be happy to get that message out to our frontline employees.
And we were just joined by Councilor Vargas, Hannah Vargas. Thank you for coming. Yes, who, you want to go? All right, Councilor Vargas.
I'm done, yeah.
Oh, are you done? I'm so sorry. Let me go to Councilor Peters.
So, I have a lot of, and please forgive me, I'm prefacing because I don't know enough about garbage. So a lot of these things are new for me in terms of the vocabulary. And I'm reading the contract. Can you tell me what the overflow bag program is?
I'll defer to Al if I don't get it right, but, my understanding is when you have more than the bins will accommodate, you can be provided with bags that can augment your travel.
Yes, they have to purchase this.
And-
Sorry, can I?
Yes, I will have you sworn in.
Yes.
We'll probably have more questions for you. Thank you for coming. Okay,
You want me to swear me now?
please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your name for the record.
I'll give you
Let's get you
a
on.
director of environmental.
We really appreciate you coming. Please come have a seat. Yeah.
So the overflow bag is there for residents who have, maybe they had, Fourth of July, they're generating more trash than they normally do. So they can come down, there's merchants throughout the city that sell these, but we sell them at Public Works as well. It's a sleeve of 5 bags, get $2 a piece. That gets that bag picked up. So it's 5 bags, $10 for the sleeve. They can put those bags out with their regular trash, but it goes on the sidewalk. Waste management is supposed to empty the barrel, put it down, and then reload those bags that are on the ground back in the barrel and empty it once again. Correct? Yeah, and that's the idea of the overflow bags. It's not on a constant basis. It's when people are generating holidays, parties, summertime, barbecues, when they're generating a little bit more trash.
Yes, please.
Do you, first, before I continue, Al, I just want to thank you. When we're having concerns and we have issues of this nature, you're always very, very willing to step up and help us navigate some of this dark decisions. So I just want to say thank you because you are, very much, an amazing point person for most of us, I think we can say, or all of us. Would you say that overflow bag program is actually successful here?
Well, maybe people don't use it enough. They're reluctant to pay.
Yeah.
The extra, fee for that. And, out of that fee, and we had, most of that money goes back to the waste management for the service and collecting.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, when they put out their own trash bags, it's not.
Yeah.
Can I just add, so you probably heard one of the mayors, like, key priorities is getting back to bigger trash cans. So we did get an EPA grant that's gonna provide new trash cans for 20% of the city. Will go back to the bigger trash, smaller recycling. And then hopefully over time, as we have money in the budget, we'll be able to continue to replace trash cans in that nature.
Thank you enough for doing
Do you mind if we just have a public, now particular your council?
Is this something that, I know I've heard in the past, is this something that we're kind of putting into consideration of any possible new contracts going?
Yes, exactly.
That's still part of that.
Yes,
Can I-
please,
thank you.
Councilor Peterson.
The. In terms of what you just said, Chief, I appreciate having a bigger tote for our container for trash, but I think we as a city have not done a good job of continuing to educate on recycling. So I think that I just, while I appreciate that, and I think that that's a good idea, I also wonder how much we should be continuing to do in terms of educating on recycling, because it's not, there is quite a bit that we actually could recycle and we don't as a city. I've seen numbers in terms of, in comparison from city to city, how poorly we actually know. We do a pretty bad job.
But part of the reason for that is that people don't have adequate space for their trash, they put it in their recycling. And then everybody's recycling goes in the trash.
Right.
So we have to work, education as a piece, but there's also just like a capacity.
Can I address? Yeah, answer that too as well. So right now, and I totally agree with you. I do know that there is an effort that happens at DPW to educate on recycling. You might see a table with Al and some of his staff at their PVD Fest, their various festivals, you know, talking about recycling. My deputy reads to kids in schoolrooms. She's been killing me. Well, maybe not. She dresses up like a pirate. Because the children's book that she reads to the kids involves a kid who wants to be a pirate, but that, believe it or not, has to do with recycling. All of that, I think, I totally agree with you. I want to do so much more. So much more like social media and communication to the public. One of the things that we are going to see that I asked, that we did ask for previously and it didn't happen, and I hope it happens this year, is a community liaison for DPW for exactly that kind of initiative, in addition to some other things that I think would definitely elevate the level of information that constituents have about the services that DPW provides and things like recycling.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can I?
Yes,
please. We understand that the contract is for the 9,542,000. However, we know that there's overages, right? So can you, whether it's when we get to Rhode Island, can you tell us kind of what the actual cost is if, you know, one of our trucks doesn't get, if there's a surcharge or whatever it might be? I know that there are times where waste management can't deliver the load as intended, and then we have to cover some sort of a cost.
Yeah, that's within the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Contract, not this contract. And the city spends roughly $1 million a year in this.
In that, okay. But that's additional waste, right? Like trash, not exactly recycling.
That's, oh, no, that would be overage. So there's also a charge for Rhode Island Resource Recovery for going over a certain amount.
Right, okay, yes,
That's different from the rejected loads, and I would have to get you, okay, but we have, but that's not in this.
That's not in it. What I guess I'm just trying to get at is our actual cost doesn't get to be $9 million, it actually becomes that much more, right? So I wanna just make sure that we're cognizant of that, because it is a substantial cost. Our waste management is actually quite a substantial cost.
Yeah, and I could just say to you, like, we spent a lot of time on this. The state's facility for accepting trash is like not set up for Providence, so we end up spending a lot of money on, we end up not recycling, we end up spending a lot of, like, and they're the only, then, like, we have to go to them.
Right.
So like, we're stuck in this position, but we have to take our trash there, and then they just charge us And so like advocacy by all of us around that is
Yeah.
really important.
I agree with you. I think that just kind of goes back around to the point of perhaps breaking this up while may not necessarily be something that everybody supports. It actually sounds like it almost might make the most sense in an effort to try and really watch our pennies as a city, but also try and capture as much as possible with the most return for our taxpayers. So thank you guys. My last is just some feedback from constituents. So Ed, this is for you. Hi, how are you? I represent Ward 14. And a lot of some of this is more of the same of what Councilman Royce had said. In my neighborhood, we talk about extending the time for yard waste because, you know, the climate is changing, so we need to be able to kind of offset some of that. The pickup of bulky items is often a problem, whether you do it online, which having an online resource is phenomenal. But when the customer service component on the phone wasn't absolutely, it just wasn't great customer service. I myself went through it and I got stuck in a point where I had to provide a number, like a customer number. And I was like, well, I don't know what my customer number is. And it got to a point where my bulky items sat for a couple of weeks while I tried to figure this out. The other thing, I know we have charges here or, contract negotiation with regards to mattresses. I am just a personal believer that we should actually be covering the cost of all of the mattresses. We have a $9 million contract here, and mattress pickup should be something that we're doing. We have a substantial amount of it because we have transient, we're becoming more of a transient neighborhood city, and it's something that we need to keep into consideration. The last of it is from a constituent perspective. We live in an area where there is a college, and the city of Providence has about 26,000 kids that come in every single year. And during move in and during move out, for the students that live in these student housing designated areas, there's an immense amount of big items, bulk, and a lot of trash that is left over for days on end. It's something that I just happened to think about when we were talking here, but it's absolutely something that we need to be considering when we're having these conversations, because we have so many kids that live in our neighborhoods. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I would just, if I could just add on the online piece, is that is a new service that we started to offer recently. And without really very much advertising, maybe none at all, residents have really gravitated towards it. So I'd just like to point out that it's been very popular with the residents of the city, and we do see quite a bit of utilization. And regarding the call center experience that you had, I guess one thing I would just say is that we have heard that complaint and that concern before about having that customer number available. And the answer is, you can literally say, I don't have it, or I don't have one, and it will just bump you on to the next, basically to talk to somebody to schedule your item. I realize that may not be intuitive for somebody who's just calling and they don't realize that. And so we do, since we have heard that concern from many people, we're looking at making some changes. I'm not sure exactly what those changes will be at this point, but I will say that has been heard, and we're considering what the best solution is to that.
Thank you.
Yes, I think we have Councilor Vargas first, and then we'll go to Pro Tem.
Thank you. So there's $1 million more for this new extension, right? That we working with them, almost $1 million. But it doesn't clarify, is it 1 year or an extension for how many years?
It's 1 year, it's the period at the top. So for the period July 1, 2024 to June 30.
So in this new contract, you're saying that we have the bulk items that they're not going to be charging us no more, like when I call for an old fridge, like to take out the sidewalk and I call West Management, they will charge the city, I think it's $35 to $40 per bulk.
Everything related to bulk will stay the same. for
So
this.
they will charge us anyway.
They charge us for white goods or for all bulk?
They will charge for everything.
For white goods, if white goods are not on the curb, it charges $25 for this car. So if it's got to be done, finance. And they go up, waste management goes out, they still charge us $25 for making the trip out. White goods, I'm not sure if it's done by, piece, or how it's done, but.
The terms related to bulk do not change.
Do not change, but is any way this new contract, we take away those charges against the city? Like
Not
we,
for this year. We would, in the new contract in July 2025.
so that's what we're doing now, so we do a new contract with them, a new extension.
It's just an extension of the existing terms. Not a.
Can we remove some items out of this?
No.
Can I remove any items?
No.
Next year.
Next year. So we can touch. So when are we going to be putting the RP out for new bidding process?
We will put it out before the end of this fiscal year. By July 1.
By July 1, 2024 will be out.
Mhm.
And how many times can we put it out, if in case we don't have nobody to buy it?
As many as we want. It's not like a great strategy to just keep putting it out because you don't tend to get different results. But if we don't get bidders, we'll put it out again and try again.
Because according to the information that we have here, like, if we don't have anybody who bid out, they will come back again and say, hey, we can take it, well, we cost you $2 more million.
They'll have to bid, but they'll have to bid and then we'll enter into a contract negotiation with them for the.
Thank you.
Okay. Pro Tem?
Thank you very much. I guess, there were already some questions answered. My question is to, Waste Management, and I know I have my back to it. But, you've heard, your company has heard that there's been, several complaints in terms of timeliness of pickup and improving the process. Are you in the process of working, these issues to be more efficient in terms of the response rates? And do you have any report or data that you can provide the city as we are going to be approving most likely this extension? But just to have a starting point, so when we are putting out this RFP next year, which it seems like Waste Management is going to be the only better because you're humongous.
So we do have reports and we do have data. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. And so regarding complaints and missed pickups and so forth, we actually track that information. We send that over to the city each month. So we track the number of services that we provide, which is actually quite a few when you add up every home that we service every week for trash, recycling, yard waste. Just to give you a sense of the scope of that, it's actually over 5.1 million services a year, or about almost 20,000 a day. I believe that's the case. So it's quite a bit. And we, as far as the missed pickups go and then the complaints that we receive, it's about 9.5 per day. So when you look at that alone, it might sound like a lot, especially if you kind of think, well, hey, that's like 45, 50 a week. Might seem like a lot, but I think what I would encourage everybody to consider is the fact that, just the immensity of the scope, which is, it's almost 100, it's 98,000 services a week. That's what we're providing. We're recording about 45 to 50 complaints and or misses a week. So that's one thing I just want to point out. Now, as far as delays and everything go, I think we addressed that a little bit today, as far as weather and so forth. And I think as we just work together with the DPW and try to communicate as well as we can with each other, hopefully we can tighten that up. And I guess what I would say is if there are specific issues that with specific streets, delays, et cetera, please let us know about those in particular, because that's what we would like to, we'd like that kind of feedback so that we can specifically address those concerns. There might be something that's driving a particular delay or street or something like that. If there's a repeat issue, we would just want to have that feedback so that way we can address it as efficiently as possible.
Sure, thank you. If I may,
Yes, please.
two more, just on the follow-up on that. Again, just looking to see if those response time are reduced over time. And then the question is also, are your call centers locally located, or is it national, or where they're at?
It's an interesting answer. When we started this original contract, it was pre-COVID and it was located in Foxborough, Massachusetts, which isn't really too far. And then with COVID, we went to a sort of a kind of like a work at home model. So now it went to a scenario where our representatives who answer the phone are actually working at home, not in a physical call center. And then that has expanded to include people beyond our local New England area.
So you have some here in Rhode Island?
We might. I don't know off the top of my head where everybody is, but it's quite possible that we do.
All right, and then the last one is in terms of, again, being I guess international company, but what's your program in terms of here locally for this contract to deal with MBE, WBE?
Well, so we're a publicly traded company, so I realize that from the MBE and WBE standpoint that I don't think we qualify. That being said, I'm certain that many of our shareholders who own our company would qualify, but I realize that doesn't meet the program standards.
Yeah, I think so. If I may expand on that, what I'm also getting to this is that perhaps not with this contract, but as we continue to develop our criteria, is that companies like yours or others, while they're international, traded, tough to separate and so forth, to figure out how do a company like yours can meet the MBE, WBE employment, not only employment opportunities, but small business opportunities for local, regional companies. Do you have is your company tried to address that?
You know, from an ownership standpoint, I mean, it is a tough thing to address since, like I said, we're publicly owned. So anyone in the public is certainly open to buy shares in Waste Management. But what I would say is to kind of address maybe the spirit of what you're asking is that, you know, our employees who are working locally in our Cranston district and service the city and the residents of Providence, I think would very much individually sort of meet those criteria. And so as far as people who are, you know, engaged in the community and working and making a living and benefiting from, frankly, a really good job, I think you see a lot of people who would meet that criteria in that sense.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a little urgent matter here because Councilor Graves must leave. We will lack quorum when he does. So if we take any action, we need to do that now. So my question to my counselors is, do we have more questions to ask? You know, to the offended counselors, do you have more questions to ask at this point, or have you asked your question?
I do. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we have to decide whether we're going to continue this matter, so I'm going to ask my committee members, do you feel you need to continue the matter?
Well, questions, you're gonna have to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, but I want to include my question.
But before she even goes, maybe we could amend the agenda as that vote so that it's continued as amended. So it's clear
Okay,
what the new
then I will
price.
ask first of all that we amend, thank you for the reminder. Since we've had more questions, I hate to do this to the team, but I'm afraid that Councilor Graves must leave. We're going to be without it, so we're going to have to continue this matter. So I would, like a motion to amend the, proposed.
I make the motion to.
Okay. As you know, the discussion that we have, so it's the motion to.
Amend the agenda.
To amend the agenda
Yes.
to reflect the correct amount.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a motion?
She made a motion.
Okay, motion second. Okay, motion made by Counselor Gray, seconded by Counselor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye, all opposed? Okay. All right, so with that, I think unfortunately, we are going to have to, do a motion to continue this matter, given, the fact that we have, a scheduling conflict. May I have a motion to continue this matter? Okay, motion made by Counselor Gray, seconded by Counselor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye, all opposed? Okay.
I
With that,
apologize, guys, but I just got a text something.
with that, well, I think we had a motion to continue.
So,
Is that the last item?
So we can't have questions anymore, right?
No.
so it wouldn't be part of the meeting or the minutes or the notes anymore. So to the extent you want that part of the public record, I recommend you do that at the next meeting. Because you've lost your quorum, this is no longer a public meeting under the definition of quorum. So to create a thorough record, I would recommend that, you know, the larger questions be saved for the next meeting. Of course, you can ask questions one-on-one, for the public record.
Yes.
You can adjourn.
Well, yeah, but,
We'll continue.
Let's,
Rolling
but
meeting.
it's-
Want to call it back?
Sanchez speak.
No, I just want to thank the director in chief and Ed, thank you so much for participating. I was gonna say that, the online form is 100% better. And I do want to give credit to the workers that are in our neighborhoods on a weekly basis. They are very friendly and are very, good partners, when it comes to the, direct impact of our constituents. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd be happy to pass that along to them. Thank you.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Councilman, no quorum.
Okay, we're adjourning.
You can adjourn.
That's one way to.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, okay, so we're gonna have, next week.
Yeah.
You have a chance to ask a question, and we'll still have it on the timeline.